Listen, baby girl, let me tell you something real quick. If you've ever sat around wondering why some women get deep, lasting respect from men, and others don't, then you need to hear this today. Because respect, that ain't something you demand, it's something you command, through how you carry yourself, through how you live, and through the standards you hold. Let's get straight to it. There are 4 rules, just 4, that when a woman lives by them, a man can't help but look at her different. He walks straighter when she walks in the room. He talks better when she's around. He knows he's in the presence of a real one. Rule number 1, never chase. Ever. You let him come to you. Don't be out here running after no man like you're a contestant in some game show. If he's a real man, he gon' pursue what he values. That's just facts. When you chase him, he stops running. And guess what? You lose the power. A man respects a woman who knows she ain't got to throw herself at nobody. She's the prize. She knows it. And she walks like it, talk like it, lives like it. Let me tell you something, you don't beg a king, and you sure don't beg a joker in disguise. A woman who stays on her throne, that's the woman a man bows to. Simple. Rule number 2, keep your standards high and non-negotiable. See, when you bend your rules for a man, he stops respecting them, and eventually, he stops respecting you. You say you don't deal with liars? Then don't. You say you won't tolerate being a secret? Then don't let him keep you in the shadows. Your standards are your blueprint. The moment you throw them out the window for some attention, you start losing yourself. Real men, they watch, they see what you allow, and they treat you based on what you tolerate. A woman with high standards. She don't need to say anything. Her energy does the talking. Her no is powerful. Her silence is louder than 1,000 words. Rule number 3, don't lose yourself trying to keep him. You better hear me on this one. Too many women twist and shrink and twist again trying to be what he wants, trying to keep him interested, trying to match his moods. No. Respect is born when a man sees a woman with a full life, full confidence, full purpose. You were somebody before he came along. Don't forget that. Be the woman who keeps her goals, her hobbies, her faith, her friends. Don't trade your identity for his presence. A man may like a woman who depends on him, but he respects a woman who doesn't need him to feel whole. Rule number 4, walk away when you're not respected. Now this one right here, this is the ultimate test. Can you leave the table when love is no longer being served? Can you get up, straighten your crown, and walk, even if it hurts? Because the moment a woman chooses self-respect over desperation, she sends a message that echoes louder than any argument ever could. Let me tell you, a man may not like it in the moment, but oh, he gon' respect it. Long after you're gone, that silence, that self-worth, that strength up it haunts him. A woman who refuses to settle. The woman lives rent-free in his mind, forever. So hear me, queen, you ain't gotta shout, you ain't gotta cry. You ain't gotta beg. All you gotta dog is live by these 4 rules. And watch the way men change how they speak to you, how they show up for you, how they think twice before playing with you. Because a woman who knows her worth, honors her standards, keeps her peace, and walks with purpose. That's the kind of woman men don't just like, they deeply, deeply respect. A woman who never chases earns a man's full attention and admiration because there's something powerful about a woman who knows her worth so deeply that she refuses to run after someone who isn't choosing her first. When a woman stands still and lets the man do the pursuing, she immediately shifts the energy. She is no longer the one seeking approval, but the one who understands that real connection starts with mutual interest, not one-sided effort. Chasing a man often signals desperation, and desperation never commands respect. The moment a woman starts calling, texting, checking in constantly, trying to prove she's worthy, she unknowingly strips herself of the very mystery and magnetism that draws a man in. It's not about playing games, it's about standing in value. A woman who doesn't chase knows that if a man wants her, he'll make it known. He'll show up, he'll communicate, he'll invest, and that makes her a world where too many people are busy chasing validation. Instead of protecting their energy, a man might enjoy attention in the short term, but what he respects long term is the woman who makes him earn her time. She doesn't hand over access to her life, her heart, or her space without observing how he shows up first. She makes him qualify himself, not because she's arrogant, but because she knows her time and love are precious. When a man sees that a woman is not moved by his charm alone, not swayed by breadcrumbs or bare minimum effort, he shifts his behavior. He becomes intentional. He recognizes that he cannot coast. He must lead with consistency, honesty, and action. A woman who doesn't chase teaches a man that her love is a privilege, not a consolation prize. She operates from a place of fullness. She's not lonely or lacking. She's not sitting by the phone. She's living, thriving, becoming. When she interacts with a man, it's from a place of wholeness. She isn't trying to be chosen. She's seeing if he fits into the life she already built. That energy is magnetic. A woman who doesn't chase doesn't lose sleep over someone not texting back. She's not analyzing every message or shrinking herself to be liked. She allows things to flow, but she never forces them. She trusts that the right man will recognize her value without needing to be begged, convinced, or pursued. She walks with quiet confidence, knowing that whoever gets her will be getting a woman who brings peace, strength, beauty, and depth. But only if he comes correct. And that presence alone, that calm assurance, draws a man in more than any over-effort ever could. It makes him look twice. It makes him think deeper. It makes him want to rise to the occasion. Because when a man sees that a woman isn't chasing, he realizes he's dealing with someone who knows exactly who she is and what she deserves. And that changes the game entirely. High standards set the tone for how a man chooses to treat you because they create a clear framework for what is acceptable and what is not. When a woman carries herself with unshakable standards, she becomes a mirror for a man to see exactly what kind of behavior is expected in her presence. She doesn't need to scream or demand respect because her standards speak louder than her words ever could. They show up in the way she communicates, in the way she says no without guilt, in the way she walks away from anything that feels unaligned. When a woman honors her boundaries, she teaches people how to treat her. A man who sees a woman sticking to her standards will either step up or step aside, but he will never be able to remain in her life offering the bare minimum. The power of high standards lies in consistency. A woman who only applies her boundaries when it's convenient sends mixed signals. But the woman who keeps her standards solid, whether she's feeling lonely, emotional, or deeply in love, commands a different level of attention. A man quickly realizes she cannot be manipulated by sweet talk or temporary charm. He knows she doesn't fold under pressure or settle out of fear. She lives by a code not for him, but for herself. And that consistency builds trust, even if he doesn't like in the moment. He may resist, he may push, he may even test it, but deep down, he respects it. Because a woman with standards provides structure, and men are naturally drawn to a woman who knows what she stands for and won't compromise her values just to keep someone around. A woman with high standards won't entertain disrespect. She doesn't reward silence with more effort. She doesn't stay in situations where she's not appreciated. She doesn't tolerate dishonesty, emotional games, or being treated like an option. She knows that the energy she allows will grow, so she cuts off anything that threatens her peace early. And she does it with grace, not bitterness. She's not punishing anyone. She's protecting herself. A man learns quickly that access to her is not guaranteed. He can't disappear for days and expect to be welcomed back like nothing happened. He can't lie and think charm will fix it. He can't give her half his effort and expect all her attention. She sets the bar, and if he can't reach it, she doesn't lower it. She lets him go. These standards don't come from a place of ego. They come from self-love. She's done the work to understand her worth. She's cried the tears, healed the wounds, rebuilt her confidence. So now she refuses to settle for anything less than what aligns with her spirit. She doesn't need perfect, but she demands effort. She doesn't expect a man to have it all together, but she requires honesty, growth, and respect. And that clarity makes her rare. A man who meets a woman with true standards understands that she is not someone to be toyed with. She's someone to be honored, to be consistent with, to be intentional with, because her standards are not a challenge, they are an invitation to rise. A woman who keeps her identity never loses her power in love, because she doesn't hand over the most important parts of herself just to feel needed or accepted. She knows that before she was anyone's partner, she was her own person. She had dreams, routines, hobbies, passions, and a life that gave joy independent of romantic attention. That foundation becomes her anchor. When a woman enters a relationship without sacrificing her individuality, she brings her full self to the table, not a watered-down version molded to fit what someone else wants. A man looks at a woman like that and knows immediately that she won't vanish into him. She'll stand beside him. That's the kind of presence that doesn't just attract a man. It elevates him. Many women lose themselves in the name of love, not because they are weak, but because they care deeply. They want to be chosen, so they compromise parts of who they are to keep the connection alive. They stop doing what they love. They adjust their values. They silence their voice. They think love is about shrinking to make room for someone else, but that never builds respect. When a woman dissolves self to please a man, she becomes invisible in his eyes over time. What a man respects is a woman who refuses to fade. A woman who stays rooted in who she is no matter how strong the chemistry or how deep the connection. A man may be initially drawn to how accommodating a woman is, but he falls deeply for the one who stands strong in her essence. The woman who will say, "I love you, but I will not lose myself for you." That woman commands a level of admiration that cannot be manufactured. She doesn't just say she values herself. She shows it in how she maintains her routines, protects her passions, and continues growing on her own terms. She is not afraid to disagree. She's not afraid to walk her own path. She brings balance to the relationship because she's not seeking to be completed. She's already whole. Her love is a compliment, not a crutch, and a man, whether he says it out loud or not, respects a woman who won't abandon herself to win his love. He sees the strength it takes. He feels the energy shift when he's around her. He knows she's not going to tolerate emotional neglect, confusion, or inconsistency. Not because she's trying to control anything, but because she knows exactly who she is and what she deserves. That self-awareness is rare. It makes her unforgettable. It makes her powerful. It makes her steady even when the relationship hits storms. This kind of woman doesn't beg. She doesn't chase. She doesn't try to convince anyone of her value. She shows up in fullness and lets her light speak for itself. And because she's not afraid of being alone, she never settles for being half-loved. A man who encounters her knows she's different. He knows he can't manipulate her with silence or control her with fear. He knows that her strength comes from within, and that if he wants to stay in her world, he has to bring something real, something solid, something that honors the woman who never let go of herself in the name of love. Walking away from disrespect demands term respect from any man because it sends a clear message that a woman knows her value and refuses to settle for less than she deserves. It shows strength, not weakness. It reveals confidence, not coldness. When a woman has the courage to leave a situation that undermines her worth, she teaches others, especially men, how serious she is about her standards. She doesn't explain herself repeatedly. She doesn't beg for understanding. She doesn't try to prove why she deserves better. She simply walks, and that silence, that action, that firmness is unforgettable. Men may not admit it out loud, but they remember the woman who chose self-respect over emotional chaos. They remember the one who didn't just talk about boundaries but enforced them when it mattered most. Too often, women stay too long trying to fix, trying to wait it out, hoping that love will change a man's behavior. But the reality is, when you tolerate mistreatment, you normalize it. The longer you stay where you are not respected, the harder it becomes to be taken seriously. A man cannot fully respect a woman who does not respect herself, and self-respect is not just about what you say. It's about what you're willing to walk away from. The moment a woman stops making excuses for bad behavior and chooses peace over potential, she shifts the entire dynamic. She goes from being overlooked to being remembered, from being taken for granted to being valued in hindsight. Walking away doesn't mean she didn't care. It means she cared enough about herself to not stay where she was being slowly diminished. It means she knew that love without respect is just emotional exhaustion wrapped in pretty words. It means she refused to let loneliness or fear of starting over trap her in a cycle that drained her spirit. A man might not understand it right away. He might be confused, even angry. But eventually, he'll recognize that her departure wasn't about pride, it was about preservation. And that's when the respect kicks in. When he sees she didn't leave to prove a point, she left to protect her peace. A woman who can walk away with dignity, without slamming doors or starting drama, stands in rare power. She doesn't need revenge, she doesn't need to tear anyone down. Her silence is strength, her absence speaks volumes. A man feels that. He may act like he doesn't, but deep down, it hits different. Because there's something about a woman who says, I deserve more, and then actually chooses more, that changes the way she's seen. Not just by that man, but by anyone who ever underestimated her. She no longer has to explain why she walked away. Her life will show it. Her peace will show it. Her glow will show it. And when a man looks back, he won't just remember her beauty or her kindness. He'll remember her courage, the courage it took to walk away the moment she realized her love was being taken for granted. A self-worth speaks louder than words in every relationship dynamic, because it is the foundation of how a woman allows herself to be treated, and whether she realizes it or not. A man reads her level of self-worth not by what she says, but by what she tolerates, what she accepts, and what she walks away from. A woman can say she knows her value, but if her actions contradict that, if she chases, overgives, or stays in emotionally draining situations, then the message is lost. Real self-worth doesn't need to announce itself because it shows up in how a woman carries herself, how she sets boundaries, how she prioritizes her peace, and how she moves when someone fails to meet her standards. Men are observant. They notice what you laugh off, what you excuse, what you give passes to. They test even without meaning to. They push to see where the line is. And the woman who holds firm, who doesn't allow her emotions to blur her values, who knows she deserves effort, respect, honesty, and consistency, gains a kind of respect that can't be faked. She's not easily impressed, not because she's cold, but because she knows surface level attention isn't enough for her soul. She doesn't need to prove she's worthy of love. She believes it already, and that belief shapes how she navigates every connection in her life. Self-worth shows up in her standards. She's not waiting for a man to choose her, she's observing if he's even worth being in her energy. She's not worried about keeping his attention. She's watching how he treats her when no one is looking, how he shows up when it's inconvenient, how he handles conflict without disrespect. She knows love without honor is not love she's interested in. She doesn't settle for potential or promises. She requires presence, proof, and peace. And because she has that clarity, she's not easily manipulated by charm or temporary gestures. A woman with deep self-worth won't compete for a man. She won't beg for communication. She won't lower herself just to be seen. If she feels taken for granted, she distances herself, not to punish, but to protect her inner world. She values her mental and emotional health more than temporary validation. Her silence becomes her boundary. Her distance becomes her message. A man who experiences that quickly realizes she's not the type to be played with. He sees she has a full life, full identity, and she's not afraid of letting go if it means preserving her dignity. What truly shifts the power dynamic is that she's not afraid of being alone. She's not afraid to sit with herself, grow by herself, and thrive by herself. And when a man sees that, when he knows she's not staying because she needs him, but because she chooses to, it creates a different kind of bond. One built on mutual respect, not dependency. One built on strength, not fear. Her self-worth challenges him to be better, to rise higher, to lead with integrity, because he knows if he doesn't, she won't stay and explain. She'll simply move on without looking back. And men respect consistency in a woman's boundaries and behavior because it gives them clarity, stability, and certainty about who she is and what she stands for. A woman who is consistent with her words, her expectations, and her standards sends a strong message that she cannot be swayed by pressure, emotion, or convenience. She's not unpredictable, and she doesn't shift her boundaries depending on how much she likes a man or how charming he becomes. She stands firm in what she believes, and that earns a different kind of respect because it shows she's not here to impress. She's here to be real. Men may test those boundaries at times, but when a woman responds with the same calm confidence every time, he realizes she's not doing this for attention. She's doing this because it's who she is. When a woman is consistent, a man doesn't have to guess where he stands. He knows she means what she says and says what she means. If she says she doesn't tolerate dishonesty, and she walks away the first time it happens, that action teaches him far more than 1,000 warnings ever could. If she says she values communication, and she stops engaging with people who go silent for days, that behavior reinforces her worth. There's power in consistency because it removes the confusion that comes someone says one thing but accepts another. Men are more likely to respect the woman who stands by her principles, not the one who adjusts them based on her emotions or his behavior. Consistency is not about being rigid, it's about being grounded. It's about knowing your non-negotiables and not betraying them just to keep someone interested. A woman who is emotionally stable and spiritually secure is a calming presence in a man's life. He doesn't have to fear sudden mood swings, silent treatments, or emotional manipulation. He knows she will address things when they matter. She will speak up respectfully, and she will leave when she's no longer valued. That level of emotional maturity makes her rare and unforgettable. It makes her safe to be around, even if she's challenging. Because she's not driven by chaos, she's anchored in self-respect. The danger in being inconsistent is that it invites disrespect. When a woman threatens to leave but stays every time, her words lose weight. When she says she needs space but always responds instantly, her boundaries get ignored. When she forgives the same behavior without change, she unintentionally teaches a man that there are no real consequences. But the woman who follows through, who holds the same standard whether she's emotional, tired, or in love, teaches a man to take her seriously. He may not like the limits at first, but deep down he respects them. He respects her for being the kind of woman who doesn't bluff, who doesn't play games, and who doesn't abandon herself to please someone else. That consistency builds trust, and trust builds influence. A woman who is consistent in her strength, her values, and her self-love becomes a woman whose presence commands attention without effort, whose silence carries meaning, and whose life sets the standard for